Welcome back to the program. So, are you ready for 3 solid segments of all good news? Because that's exactly what we're going to drop right now. We're going to start with number 1, okay? President Trump, through his executive order back in March, has ordered a nationwide complete review of every single voter roll in every single state. This is what we have been waiting for, election integrity, for so long. We are on the precipice of getting some real solid election integrity and before these midterms. Let me break this down for you. Trump's Department of Justice launches a nationwide voter roll investigation ahead of the midterms. According to Fox News, the effort comes directly from a March executive order signed by President Trump, which instructs the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, and the entire Department of Justice to coordinate with state attorney generals to investigate and prosecute illegal voter registrations, including, of course, felons, dead voters, and foreign nationals. On March 25th, 2025, President Trump signed Executive Order 14248, titled Preserving and Protecting the Integrity of Our Elections. The order, again, says that, so let's skip that part. It instructs the Department of Justice to enter information sharing agreements with states so that any evidence of ineligible voting or registration discovered at the state level would be reported to federal authorities. Bondi has also said that she is putting together a team of 30 election expert lawyers to work on this project. A major focus was placed on purging ineligible names from voter rolls and protecting unlawful registrations. The Department of Justice was ordered to review voter lists for individuals who are not eligible to vote, including people, again, with felony convictions, deceased individuals, and non-citizens. The text of the order, again, directs the Attorney General to coordinate with the state Attorney General. I don't know why this article likes to repeat things. It also mandates enforcement of existing list maintenance laws like the National Voter Registration Act and the Help America Vote Act, which I actually call for its repeal in my book, Preserving Liberty, that require removal of deceased and otherwise ineligible voters from the rolls. To compel cooperation, the executive order empowers the Attorney General to withhold certain election funding and grants from any state that refuses to comply with these voter roll investigations. So there is a little bit of teeth behind it as well. In other words, if a state does not cooperate in rooting out illegal registrations or election fraud, the Department of Justice will be pulling their federal funding, which is excellent. Bondi has already dispatched, again, a large team to problem states like California, Texas, and Minnesota. Maine Secretary of State Shenna Bellows, Democrat, confirmed during a press conference that her state received the Department of Justice letter and that according to NAS, all 50 states will eventually receive similar requests. So that's a really, really good development. In fact, it's similar to, I guess you could say, what we've been trying to get past, right? Which is obviously 50-state voter ID, and then also making sure that illegals are not voting in our elections, right? What's it called? The SAVE Act, whatever it's called. So this is like half the SAVE Act. And the best part about this is it's happening before these midterm elections, which means that obviously right now these Democrats are going to try to cheat like hell because they know they can't win because their party is about as popular as, I don't know, frostbite, leprosy, and whatever. And so they're not popular, and the only way that they can gain power is to cheat and steal. And we will not allow that to happen anymore. And this executive order is what's going to help make us have secure elections. So really good stuff. Here was the video.
Trump administration looking to boost election integrity as the DOJ opens a nationwide investigation into voter rolls. The department is calling on local officials to identify felons, dead voters, and also non-citizens who might have cast a ballot. David Spunt is live from Washington with more on this one. Hi, David.
Hi, Aisha. Good morning. Today, next week, the week after, and so on, DOJ officials will continue to work on what they call the department a serious problem with our voter rolls. This all stems from a March executive order signed by President Trump, which states in part, the Attorney General shall, consistent with applicable laws, coordinate with state attorneys general to assist with state-level review and prosecution of aliens unlawfully registered to vote or casting votes. Attorney General Pam Bondi has directed her team to check counties across the United States. But California is a big focus, as is Texas and Minnesota. The DOJ plans to prosecute any foreign nationals that get caught voting. A DOJ source tells Fox News election integrity starts with clean voter rolls. That's the foundation for secure elections. There's been a culture of noncompliance from several states that don't keep their rolls updated. This DOJ is cracking down. Now,
there it is. This DOJ is cracking down. Those are the best words you want to hear, okay? Now, let me add something to this before we move on to the next part. The fact that we are getting rid of so many of these illegal aliens in the country, not to mention the fact that millions upon millions are self-deporting because they don't want to be taken out by ICE and everything else. So we're cleaning up. All right, and we've got a long time before the midterms to get a lot of people out of this country. And so what does that mean? That means that they're not going to have their illegal voter base in especially the swing states, because that's where we're concentrating a lot of our efforts, is to get them out of this country so that they're not even able to vote. Of course, there are loopholes in some states where people are allowed to vote overseas. That's also being looked at as well. But keep in mind, they're hiring 30 election expert lawyers that just deal with election law, and they're going to unleash those 30 lawyers all over the voter rolls, all over the country. So to the states that think that they're going to fight back against this, you're going to lose, and you're going to lose in another way, because we as the federal government and the Trump administration have the power and the leverage to tell you, well, guess what? No machines, which of course we would love to have no machines in all 50 states, but also no funding for your elections. So I think this is wonderful. This is a great development, and I hope that they clean it all up and they do it as quickly and efficiently as possible. Now, let's get on to some more good news. I love it when I can do all good news. So how many times did I call Jack Smith Jack-Off Smith, right? I mean, every single time I did a show, I called him Jack-Off Smith, because that's what he was. He was a political jack-off who was appointed illegally, number one, and number two, has the most amount of cases, besides maybe Weissman, overturned at the Supreme Court, okay? There's no one else that has more than him. And so what was he doing? He was doing illegal stuff. He was doing an illegal and unconstitutional witch hunt. And so finally, they're taking this serious. And I love this. Office of Special Counsel launches an investigation into Jack-Off Smith. So let's see. Jack-Off Smith was appointed as a special counsel in 2022 by the Otto Penn administration's Attorney General, Merrick Garland, to investigate President Trump just one day after he announced his 2024 bid for the White House. The Office of Special Counsel opened a criminal investigation after Senator Tom Cotton earlier this week sent a letter alleging that Jack-Off Smith's actions politically harmed President Trump during the 2024 election. According to the New York Post, Smith is the Justice Department lawyer who oversaw 2 criminal investigations into President Donald Trump during the Biden-Otto Penn administration. One into President Trump's handling of classified documents. The other was to his actions on January 6, 2021, were an attempt to overthrow the 2020 election, which of course they were not, right? Go down there peacefully and patriotically. They always like to leave that part out. An email received by the Post states, the Hatch Act, which enforces a law restricting government employees from engaging in political activities, has begun reviewing the former special counsel for the United States Department of Justice. The email was written by senior counsel Charles Baldus from the OSC. Quote, I appreciate the Office of Special Counsel taking this very seriously and launching this investigation into Jackoff Smith's conduct. No one is above the law. Jackoff Smith's actions were clearly driven to hurt President Trump's election chances, and Smith should be held fully accountable, said Senate Intelligence Committee Chair Senator Tom Cotton in a statement to the Post. Smith indicted Trump on 37 federal counts in Miami in June of 2023 for lawfully, not unlawfully, for lawfully storing presidential records at his Mar-a-Lago estate, which, again, was protected by the fact that he was president of the United States. You are allowed, as president, not vice president, but as president, you are allowed to take things from the White House and keep them personally. And guess what happens? The minute you take something, it could be a napkin with something written on it. You take it out of the White House as the president of the United States, it's automatically declassified. Automatically. And it's legal to do so. Now, that same right does not go for a vice president. The vice president does not have that. So when Joe Biden took all those documents and stored them in the trunk of his Corvette and in his garage, that was a crime. Those were classified documents. They were not unclassified documents. If you would have taken those out as president, well, there's probably still some legal limbo there because he really never was president because of the AutoPen. And if AutoPen can prove that, then that would be also another crime. But assuming that he was, then it would be legal because he was, quote, president, right? That's just how presidential immunity when it comes to documentation and classified information works. And so because of that, they basically did a bogus, witch hunt. Trump was charged with an additional 31 counts under the Espionage Act of willful retention of national defense information and 6 other process crimes stemming from conversations with his lawyer. Think of how sick this is. They charged him with 6 process crimes just for conversations, which he's allowed to have, client, lawyer privileges, with his attorney. That's how sick these people are. They charged him 6 extra just for that alone. And again, they charged him with the Espionage Act. It was willful retention that was legal to do so, which is why Judge Cannon dismissed Jackoff Smith's classified documents, which, by the way, not only did we cover ad nauseum for the past couple of years, but I said the same thing. Don't worry about it. This whole thing is going to go away. And I want people to remember that I did say that. So based on all of this, this is where he has a lot of legal, issues here. In a separate case in D.C., Jackoff Smith indicted Trump on 4 additional counts: conspiracy to defraud the United States, conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding, obstruction of justice, and an attempt to obstruct official proceedings, and conspiracy against rights. Meanwhile, they set up the whole thing on January 6th, and by the way, they're going to do another investigation, I'm hearing, on the January 6th committee. So there's a lot of things that this Department of Justice right now is working on. I hope they're not spreading themselves, too thin, and they got all these different investigations and nobody's getting indicted. No, we need to concentrate. We need to have a hierarchy. This is the one that's most important, then this one, then this one, then this one. Nothing is more important, as far as I'm concerned, than election integrity. I have said that from day one, and I will never deviate from that because without election integrity, we don't have a country. So let's move on. More good news. Okay. Besides James Edgar Comey, the other FBI director that is just as a sniveling toad as him has got to be Christopher Wray. Christopher Wray is the guy who has lied under oath numerous times, number one, perjured himself, number two, and just recently, after President Trump was shot in the ear, said, oh, he doesn't think that really happened and it was just shrapnel or something like that. He is an absolute dirtbag, okay? An absolute dirtbag. And he was handpicked to work under Mueller for years, okay? It was his lapdog for many, many years. So, former FBI Director Christopher Wray criminally referred to the Department of Justice over claims that he lied to Congress. This just broke today. I told you it was going to be all good news. Former FBI Director Christopher Wray. Isn't it interesting that all the FBI directors are now under, indictment, right? James Comey, this guy, unbelievable. Criminal referral to the Justice Department. The Oversight Project referred Christopher Wray to the Department of Justice for making false statements to Congress, obstructing proceedings related to two cases, the FBI's anti-Catholic bias case, and the FBI's involvement blocking an investigation into a Chinese mail-in voting scam. Last month, Senator Chuck Grassley released new information from declassified documents that revealed that the FBI blocked an investigation into the allegations that the Chinese Communist Party manufactured thousands of fake driver's licenses and shipped them to the United States in a scheme to help Joe Biden win the election by fraudulent mail-in votes. The FBI hid the investigation in order to protect dirty FBI Director Chris Wray, who lied to Congress about the election. Wray also lied to Congress about the Richmond memo targeting Catholics. In February 2023, the Committee on the Judiciary and the Select Subcommittee on the Weaponization of the Federal Government launched its own investigation after whistleblower Kyle Seraphin exposed the Richmond Memorandum within the FBI's internal systems. The leaked memo suggests that to infiltrate Catholic parishes, FBI agents could use clergy and parish staff as, quote, tripwires and monitor online communities associated with the traditional Latin Mass. So basically, the FBI said that we don't think that terrorist Muslims are the problem. We don't think that Antifa scum is the problem. We don't think that, Boko Haram is the problem. We don't think Hamas is the problem. Hezbollah is the problem. Muslim Brotherhood is the problem. No, we don't think BLM is the problem. No, we think that it's the Christians and the Catholics that go to church all the time. Yes, you're the terrorists out there, according to the old FBI. You're the problem. You're the ones we have to surveil. You're the ones we have to spy on. And oh, by the way, the parents are just as bad, because if you go to a school meeting and try to defend yourself, your freedom of being able to speak freely, but also to object against the type of garbage between the pornographic books being shown to children, to all the other crazy things, the CRT, all that stuff, you're the problem. Not the people that are indoctrinating your children into this sexual depravity. No, those are the good guys. You're the problem for complaining about it. So we're going to go after the parents at the school board meetings. You see how sick and twisted and backwards everything was? Thank God they're cleaning some of this up. My goodness. And again, if President Trump never won this election, none of this would be happening. And you know what would happen if, God forbid, he didn't win? The next person would not only do everything what they did, but do it 100 times worse. Why? Because they got away with it. That is why they must be prosecuted, as a deterrent for future bad actors to continue this type of behavior. A Washington-based government transparency watchdog has referred former director, okay, I got that, Oversight Project President Mike Howell told Fox News Digital that the group is specifically asking officials to examine Christopher Wray's congressional testimony on the so-called Richmond memo from the FBI office in Virginia that exposed an anti-Catholic bias, and his testimony about a Chinese plot to disseminate illicit driver's licenses before the 2020 election. In July of 2023, Wray testified before the House Judiciary Committee on the FBI Richmond memo that had labeled Catholics as potential domestic terrorists. He said, quote, "Well, all I can tell you is you're referring to the Richmond product, which is a single product by a single field office, which as soon as I found out about it, I was aghast and ordered it to be stopped and removed from the FBI systems," Wray said. The Oversight Project alleges that statement was ultimately misleading and false, as they continued afterwards. So, Christopher Wray, James Comey, John Brennan, James Clapper, Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, James Baker, Bruce Orr, Nellie Orr. I mean, the list is endless. Susan Rice, Valerie Jarrett, the auto pen situation. Look, there's so much that this administration is doing in 6 months that it just blows your mind. Now, I understand. I get it. There has not been one indictment. But as I've said, justice done right doesn't happen overnight. So let's just keep praying that in the end, justice does prevail. Those are my thoughts. What are yours? Put them down in the comments below. We'll see you in the next one.